Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the strongest characters in Vinland Saga. We're going to take each character that's participated in a battle, or at least, the significant characters, and pit them against each other and see who comes out on top in this tier list. Now, before we actually get into the rankings themselves, I should say this. Yukimura, the mangaka for Vinland Saga, probably would find this list to be a little bit, weird and strange, I would say. That's because the whole central point of Vinland Saga is that you don't gain strength to be powerful. You don't do it for violence, you don't do it for power, you don't do it for the wrong reasons. Which, as we know, most of the people on this list are doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it to hurt others. They're doing it to plunder money and make people suffer. So I think Yukimura would kind of find this list almost a little bit distasteful. Because when he talks about a true warrior in the manga, what that means to me is that you don't attain strength just for strength's sake. You attain it to protect those around you. You attain it for peace and tranquility, to be able to build a land for yourself. Thor's strength was used to protect his family in Iceland. Askeladd was using his band of mercenaries so that he could protect the Welsh. And Thorfinn is currently using his strength to build a land in Vinland and protect his new community. This is what Yukimura sees as strength, men and women who use their powers for good, who use their talents to protect those around them and to build stronger and better communities. Not for the sake of violence or, WWE style fighting. Now, that being said and understood, it's still fun to speculate about such things. I mean, heck, I grew up in the 90s and I loved watching WWE, or as it was known back then, WWF. And it was always a fun thing to talk about which wrestlers were the best, which were the strongest, and it's still a fun thing to do today. I made a Berserk tier list like this as well. So let's get started with the list, guys, and we're going to start off with the F tier. Alright, so we're going to start the proceedings with the F tier, and the first one we got here is Keitel. Now, this should not be too surprising. In the manga, he was known as Iron Fist Keitel. He had this reputation of being this absolutely brutal savage on the battlefield. Unfortunately, according to Snake, he actually got swapped out for the wrong Keitel. But not wanting to miss out on that opportunity, he merely pretended to be Iron Fist Keitel. He actually had no battle experience whatsoever. And when he tried to fight Canute to save his farm, it showed that he really wasn't a leader, he didn't have battle experience, and he didn't have any courage whatsoever. Bug Eyes is also going to be on the F tier. Now, Bug Eyes did have a pretty cool moment where he was facing off against Garm. He was trying to intimidate Garm, acting all cool and suave, and he's like, I'll let you go away for now, but if you ever test me. But as we all know, he's got no battle experience. Garm saw right through him like paper, and it was over from there. But he did have a cool moment. At least he's got that to his name. Alright, so moving on to the D tier. First up, we got Ragnar. Now, Ragnar showed up in the first arc of the series, and he was Prince Canute's bodyguard. Now, he was helping out Askeladd's various men, and, he was providing protection to Canute and such, but, I don't really know if we got any feats to go off of to say that he's stronger than, say, D tier. It's just hard to say. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but I just don't remember him really doing anything spectacular. Now, next up I got is Ylva. Now, the reason that I got Ylva here, we know that she never fought in a battle, but she was shown to be quite powerful within the manga. She was able to do the chores of a man, a particularly strong man at that, because the other men in the village were surprised by her strength and her stamina. So given that fact, and given the fact that she's the daughter of Thor's, I would think some of that strength and skill would translate over. So if she were to pick up a sword, I betcha she could probably get up to the C or even the B tier. But, she doesn't have any battle experience, so I think D tier is fair enough for what we've seen in the manga. And then last up on this tier, we got Fox and Badger. Now, Fox and Badger were the various bodyguards that worked under Snake to protect Keitel's farm. They had some decent strength. They were able to easily take down Olmar, but, at the end of the day, they weren't that powerful. When they went up against the Yam Vikings, I remember Fox was like shaking in his boots and he was just absolutely terrified and besides himself. So I would say, they're decently strong, but, nothing special, nothing spectacular. Alright, so now we're on the C tier, and to start it off, we got Ivar. Now, Ivar's kind of a tricky case because he definitely exudes the aura of a strong battle master. He definitely exudes some sort of power and skill, but when he went up against Gyaokui in the latest arc, he got his arm taken off in a flash. Now I get it, he didn't have a sword to defend himself, but we've seen Thorfinn defend himself without a sword before. He went without weapons, bare hands, and defeated Garm. And he held his own against Snake as well, again without weapons. So, I think if you have that potential, if you have that skill, you should be able to hold your own no matter the situation, and it just showed that Ivar just didn't have that skill. Next up, we got Einar. Now, again, Einar doesn't really have a lot of battle experience, but when he did fight the farmhands on Keitel's farm, he did prove himself pretty worthy there. So he's got good hand-to-hand combat, and given the fact that he was a slave and worked on the farm for years, he was absolutely jacked. He had some huge muscles, good endurance, he was around Thorfinn. I'm sure he's seen some moves before, so, he's definitely picked up things here and there, so I would definitely say that he would hold his own. Next up, we got Floki. Now, he's part of the Jam Vikings. You could say that he's a little bit higher given that he was, part of the Jam Vikings. Then again, Floki was always shown to be a little bit lacking, a little bit below his rank, it would seem. He always had that bluster, but whenever the big action or the big battle would come, he would always kind of cower, especially when Thorkel was looking for him. Then we got Sigurd, definitely a decent warrior, especially when he's got his chains in hand, so well-deserving. Halfdan I decided to put on the same level as well. I figured him and Sigurd are probably around the same rank. They both grew up on the same farm together. They didn't see any significant, military combat. They weren't part of the military in any regard, so they got decent skills, but, nothing extraordinary. And then last up, I got Knut. Now, Knut is getting some decent training from Wolf, so he's definitely getting better as a swordsman, and he can definitely hold his own. He even managed to deflect Thorgel's attack when Thorgel tried to sneak up on him, so he's definitely got his bearings about him, but I would say, again, decent warrior, just nothing special. Alright, so now we're finally getting into the strong warriors here, the really strong, durable warriors. And the first one we got up here is Thorgil. Thorgil is the son of Keitel, but unlike his dad, he is a warrior. And a very strong one at that. Like I just mentioned, he nearly took Knut's head, and he fought in many battles, and he was just shown to be a very strong man, so yeah, definitely deserving. This one's a bit difficult. Cordelia is the son of Thorkel. And as we know, Thorkel the Tall is an absolutely brutal and savage man. And Cordelia is tall and hulking like his dad. So he's got the physical attributes, when he was stabbed with a sword, he basically showed no pain whatsoever. So if he were trained, he could definitely be a lot higher on this list. But I think raw ability alone, he's definitely at least a B tier. Bjorn I also decided to put on the B tier. Now, this would be Bjorn when he's eating the mushroom, the Amanita muscaria that sends him into that berserker rage. Normal Bjorn I would probably put on the C tier, but Berserker Bjorn is definitely a handful on the battlefield and definitely very strong. Now, this next one was very tricky. This is Gyaokui. Now, if you're not caught up with the current manga, first of all, you shouldn't be watching this video because you're going to be spoiled. But second, we just don't have a lot of feats to go off of with Gyaokui. Now, the thing is when he stabbed Cordelia with the sword, he decided to back away. He sensed Cordelia's strength. That just lends credence to the fact that if Cordelia trained with the sword, he would be so powerful. He'd be one of the top 5 for sure. So Gyaokui took Ivar's arm, so that's definitely a feat in his corner. But it's hard to say, could he match up against Thorfinn? Could he match up against Garm or Thorkel or even Snake? It's just hard to say. We haven't really seen that much battle experience from him. Now, that being said, if the future chapters show that he is quite strong, this could change quite a bit. So I'm kind of flexible with this one. This one's definitely hard to judge, but I think B tier is more than fair for right now, given how much we've seen of him. And then last up, I put Wolf on this tier. Now, Wolf is the attendant to Knut. He's the man that trains Knut and gives him military advice. And I get it, Canute did technically beat him in that sparring match together, but you gotta keep a couple things in mind. Canute tricked him, and Wolf is also going up against the king. He's not gonna go full force. It was a training match, you know, he let him have the win. But I think on the battlefield, I think Wolf would definitely take it, and I think he can definitely hold his own with the best of them. Alright, so now we're on to the A tier. Now, there's probably going to be a little bit of controversy here. Probably by two of the names. The first one I got up here is Hild. So this will probably cause a little bit of controversy because Hild is technically not a warrior. She's not going to fight with a sword or a spear, she's going to fight with a crossbow. But that's a huge advantage, and given the fact that she built a crossbow that can reload very quickly, means that she's very dangerous. And her whole advantage comes from the fact that if she can determine your location before you can determine hers, you're done for. She's got you. So that crossbow is especially deadly. Now, it's all contingent on the fact that she has the crossbow in hand, and she's got the advantage. You know, she's in a spot where you can't see her. But if she has those advantages, I mean, she could literally be the strongest person on this list. I was considering B tier for her. It was really a tough call, but I thought given the fact that she was able to give Thorfinn all he could handle in the forest is meaning that she's a very good warrior and she knows how to defend herself quite well, and she also knows how to go on the offensive too. So yeah, definitely A tier. Snake is also on the A tier, you know, definitely proved himself against Thorfinn. Thorfinn even said that Snake was faster than Askeladd. Now you may be wondering, well, why is Askeladd not on this tier or possibly lower? I'll have a reasoning for that when I get to him, but I feel like Askeladd's a little bit stronger than Snake. But Snake is definitely strong because he was taking out the Jan Vikings fairly easily when they were battling on Keitel's farm. We also got Garm on this tier. Now, Garm is especially strong, especially with his spear. Very fast as well. So you could make a case that maybe he should be a little bit higher, but he's got the Thorfinn syndrome, if you know what I mean. Basically meaning that he's very hard-headed. You know, he's very one-directional. He's got the blinders on. He's always focused on what's in front of him, but he's not minding his surroundings. He's not thinking the battles through. He's not forming strategies. So he's got all the raw physical potential you could ever want. It's just he's missing that mental acuity to win on the battlefield. And Thorkel, I feel like, is in the same camp. I mean, he's tall, he's strong, I mean, he scares people with his mere presence, but again, physical strength only goes so far. You need that mental strength. I mean, the fact that Thors was able to knock him out like in a single hit is kind of embarrassing when you think about it, you know? I mean, he fought Garm to a draw. I mean, when they fought each other, it was evenly matched. They both had the same amount of bruises. I mean, they were both exhausted. There was no clear winner in that fight. So for me, they're both physical phenoms, but they just don't have any of the mental. Snake, who is also on this tier, is definitely not the physical phenom that they are, but he's got more mental acuity. He's got more of that strategical know-how to actually win in the battle. And I think the same goes for Hild as well, and that's why I put her on this tier. Alright, so S tier. First one we got here is Askeladd. Now, Askeladd, I put above, you know, Thorkel, Garm, Snake. Now, remember, Thorfinn said that Snake was a little bit faster than Askeladd, and Snake was definitely a tough fighter, and definitely thought his way through battles. Very strategic, just like Askeladd. However, I think where Askeladd wins over is just the sheer amount of battle experience. He's seen basically everything on the battlefield. It's very rare for someone to trick him. The only person that was able to trick him in a battle was Thors. Remember when Askeladd was going for that big overhand with the sword, and then Thors kind of did like a little punch into his like elbow and kind of like incapacitated him. So that was the one time that he was outsmarted, but every other situation he was able to handle it absolutely brilliantly. He's a savant with the sword, a savant in terms of intelligence. He's just excelling at all levels. I think without question, he's definitely in the top 3 for toughest fighters. He's not going to be the fastest guy. He's not going to be the strongest guy on the battlefield, but he's got experience and he's got a lot of skill. And he's very crafty as well. So if there's some kind of distraction that he can use, if there's some kind of weakness that he notices within you, he's going to take advantage of that. Especially in his fights with Thorfinn when Thorfinn was a lot younger. Speaking of which, Thorfinn is also in this tier as well. Now, we're going with current arc Thorfinn. If we were going with, war arc Thorfinn, he's probably in like the A tier. But if we're going with current Thorfinn, who has all the physical abilities of Askeladd, given the fact that he was able to do what Askeladd did to him to Garm. He did the exact same thing to Garm that happened to him when he was fighting Askeladd, which demonstrates to me that he was able to finally get to Askeladd's level in that arc. He was finally able to attain that level of strategic insight. And given the fact that he's younger, faster, I think he's definitely well above Thorkel, Garm, and Snake. Heck, when he fought Snake, he fought him without any arms whatsoever. And then finally, S+ tier, not a surprise to anyone here, but it's Thor's. The guy was just an absolute juggernaut. He had all the physical strength. He was smarter than Askeladd. He was stronger than Thor's. What else can you say? He's got all the battle experience in the world. He's just physically and mentally gifted. And he's just a badass. He always keeps his cool. He never loses his composure. He's just, he checks all the boxes. He's got it all. And, he made Askeladd look like a fool. He made Thorkel look like a fool. And there's just no one on this list that could hold a candlestick to him. So that's my list, guys. The strongest characters in Vinland Saga. Let me know what you guys think of this list. And if you want me to do some more similar videos like this in the future, I could definitely do that. I was thinking about doing one for Hunter x Hunter as well, but that list is going to be very complex and convoluted. I would probably have to go by arcs for that one. But anyways, thanks for listening, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the flip side.